Over the course of history, the atomic bomb and its effects have brought about a whirlwind of controversy in countries all across the globe. Some consider its creation to be an incredible feat of scientific capability, while others strongly believe it is nothing but an undeviating path to human tragedy. The earliest known development of the atomic bomb was in early 1939 when it was discovered that German physicists had learned how to split a uranium atom. This sparked fear in many nations over the possibility of Nazi scientists utilizing this newfound energy to create a weapon capable of incredible destruction. This information led famous scientists Albert Einstein and Leo Szilard to communicate with the President of the United States in hopes of addressing this concern. Einstein wrote a letter to President Roosevelt urging him to agree to the development of an atomic research program. Roosevelt did not see the necessity for such a project, but nevertheless agreed to proceed slowly. By late 1941, the American effort to design and develop an atomic weapon was given its well-known codename, the Manhattan Project. The early stages of research for the Manhattan Project only began at a few universities. Among these are Columbia University, the University of Chicago, and the University of California, Berkeley. The first major breakthrough in progress happened in 1942 when Enrico Fermi led a group of physicists to produce the first controlled nuclear chain reaction. This sparked a huge milestone for the project and opened up several doors for further development. Funds became more readily available and the program began advancing at a rapid rate. More and more nuclear facilities were being built, including one in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, as well as another in Hanford, Washington. However, the largest and most important facility was located in Los Alamos, New Mexico. The Los Alamos Laboratory would become the main location for developing and testing atomic weaponry. Due to the fact that this was an incredibly important assembly plant, there was a need for an incredibly skilled scientist to oversee all operations. It was then decided that the director of the Los Alamos Laboratory would be J. Robert Oppenheimer. Commonly referred to as the father of the atomic bomb, Oppenheimer is known to be responsible for both the research and design behind the atomic bomb. He was an exceptional theoretical physicist who spent most of his time exploring the efficiency and capability of nuclear energy. As the Manhattan Project progressed, scientists began perfecting the methods for nuclear detonation. The extensive damage known to be caused by atomic bombs all comes from the science that lies within the bomb's creation. The bomb's detonation originates with a sudden release of energy produced by splitting the nuclei of the fissile elements held within the bomb's core. This originates with one single neutron impacting the nucleus of another atom. That nucleus then splits into smaller particles which in turn continue to collide with other nuclei. This reaction, commonly known as nuclear fission, becomes self-sustaining as the process continues to replicate. This is what initiates the chain reaction that inevitably leads up to catastrophic atomic explosions. During the Second World War, the United States was able to produce two different types of atomic bombs. The first was a gun-type weapon with a uranium core. This type of atomic bomb was commonly given the nickname Little Boy. The second model, typically referred to as Fat Man, was an implosion-type device with a plutonium core. The first successful atomic bomb test happened on July 16, 1945. The controlled detonation was stationed at the test site for the Los Alamos Laboratory in Alamogordo, New Mexico. The purpose of this trial was to determine if the atomic bomb would be capable of detonating if it had been the real scenario. A model town was arranged to try and observe the possible effects unleashed by the force of the bomb. The footage captured reveals the horrifying reality of the power released by an atomic bomb. Due to the success of the atomic bomb in the trial run, the design had been finalized and the Manhattan Project had concluded the effort of developing atomic weaponry. By the time all costs were tallied, it was revealed that nearly $2 billion was spent on the research and development of the atomic bomb. The Manhattan Project also provided a total of over 120,000 jobs for Americans. Because all operations dealing with the Manhattan Project could not be known by outside forces, including the German and Japanese, secrecy was key. Consequently, there could be no public awareness or debate over the issue. Only an extremely small portion of officials and scientists were aware of the ongoing situation. 4 years earlier, on December 7, 1941, the Japanese launched an attack on Pearl Harbor, a United States Navy base in Hawaii. As a result, over 2,000 people were killed, the majority being military personnel. This attack is what inevitably led to the United States entering World War II, as well as the need for a rapid advance in the progress of the Manhattan Project. After the successful completion of an operational atomic bomb, the United States decided to launch an attack against the Japanese in retaliation to Pearl Harbor. This would consist of 2 bombings, which would cause extremely devastating outcomes. On the morning of August 6, 1945, the lives of thousands would forever be changed as a result of a horrific nuclear attack. The United States prepared for departure aboard the Enola Gay, a Boeing B-29 bomber that held the world's first deployed atomic bomb. After takeoff from Tinian Island, it was a 6-hour flight before history would change forever. At exactly 8:16 a.m. that morning, the world's first atomic bomb detonated above the city of Hiroshima, Japan. The aftermath of the explosion was absolutely devastating. The homes that once filled the streets were nowhere to be seen. Buildings had been torn to pieces, and there was nothing but ruins for miles. As a direct result, over 80,000 innocent civilians were killed instantly, whereas thousands of others suffered severe illness from radiation and fallout, which led to the final death toll rising to upwards of 150,000 over the next few months. The second of the 2 attacks, the bombing of Nagasaki, happened only 3 days later, on the morning of August 9th. Leading up to the attack, the bomb was planned to detonate over the town of Kokura. However, due to the sky being obscured by clouds, the bombing took place over Nagasaki instead. When the bomb dropped at around noon that day, over 50,000 people were killed instantly. The city had been completely obliterated, with nothing left but ruins and rubble. The number of casualties would eventually rise to upwards of 80,000 over the following months due to the lasting effects of radiation and nuclear fallout. Now the question asks, is the creation of the atomic bomb a greater benefit to the scientific community than the risk it holds to humanity? Ever since these controversial events took place, there has been continuous debate over whether or not the attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were justified. In present day, there are numerous organizations dedicated towards bringing a worldwide end to nuclearization. However, many still believe that the creation of nuclear energy has brought about a revolutionary advancement in scientific capability. Today, this topic has resurfaced as several nations are engaged in ongoing nuclear discussion. Just over 6 months ago, on June 12, 2018, President of the United States, Donald Trump, met with North Korean Chairman Kim Jong-un at the 2018 Singapore Summit. Here they discussed the possibility of the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, as well as the recovery of North Korean and American relations. Several months later, on February 27, 2019, the 2 leaders met once again to continue their discussion on the current nuclear situation. 2 other nations that are currently faced with the issue of nuclear threats are India and Pakistan. The countries have recently had a large rise in tensions, and the threat of a nuclear crisis has quickly become more and more prominent. Each of these circumstances has brought about a rise in relevancy regarding whether or not the creation of these incredibly powerful weapons and the tragedy they cause humanity was really worth the scientific triumph it had resulted in.